Hey, what's up? It's that time of the week again, Friday night. What you listen to? Episode, what is it, 81? Something like that? 81. That's a lot of episodes. It's quite a few.
Oh, yeah.
I was only expecting to like 10 or 15. Can we make it to 100?
Probably.
Yeah.
It seems like it.
What should we do on the 100th episode? I was thinking of like getting 13 guests on.
Everybody who's already done it. At the
Everybody's
same
ever been on.
Yeah,
Is
just
that
have
the maximum you can
I think the
have?
max, yeah, I think me plus 12 or 13, I think so.
Do like a 12-hour marathon of
Or like everyone just has one pick and then just sits there for 4 hours, whatever everyone else goes to. Anyway, thanks for
That
tuning in.
sounds
I
terrible.
know it's a holiday weekend in the America. Hope you're enjoying your holiday, your independence from from me, basically.
Your people.
Get my people. It's gonna be a good show. Rachel's back, Chris is back, Justin's back, and everyone knows what's going to happen. We've got 5 records each. I'm a little fragile. Is it okay to talk about personal things? I've been wetting the baby's head, which is a good British expression when there's a baby in the family. Not even my child, my grandchildren. 3 at once. All of a sudden. Cheers.
congratulations.
Thank you. But enough of that. We're not here to talk about kids. We're here to talk about records. Let me quickly do the housekeeping here. The what is it? The like and subscribe. There we go. Hit, smash, etc. Hey, hello, Robert. How you doing? It is hot. Is it hot over there? It's like 35 over here, whatever that is in big numbers.
It is hot.
It's extremely humid here right now.
Hot and humid, yeah.
I drove to Sacramento today, and it was 110.
Ooh.
Ew.
It was not nice.
I think 35 is almost 100, but yeah. Anyway, shall we get going? I'm going to kick things off. Going back to the furious years of Italian hardcore, the 80s, the best years, the furious years. Something that was only a tape, like back in the day, and then Children of the Revolution Records from Bristol put out on a record in 86. I'm surprised another label, for example, FOAD, hasn't done this one, because it's kind of a big one in Italian hardcore, and it's weird it hasn't been reissued since 1986. It's just been reissued on Rocka Tapes, which I think was the label that did the original tape. Any guesses? What is he talking about?
Declino.
This is what he's talking about. Negazione,
It was.
Oh, that's never
Declino.
been reissued?
Just been reissued, yeah.
Oh, just been reissued.
Just
It's
like this
never-
month or last month. Not been reissued since 1986. That's kind of crazy for like a big record like this, but yeah.
It's wild.
Great.
It's amazing. It's a split record, so we've got to have a favorite side. And I have my favorite side. Maybe it might be everyone's favorite side. I don't know. My favorite side is the Negazione side, but they're both great. But they both have a lot in common though. Like both these bands, they kind of have the same rabid vocal attack in Italian. They both have drums that are kind of falling down the stairs, that are kind of barely keeping things together. And they both have really nice guitar tones that are a little bit not the norm in hardcore. And I don't know what the effects are. I'm not a musician. Reverb, delay, phaser, I'm not sure. But it kind of really adds something. It's kind of almost a little bit psychedelic and jazzy, almost, I want to say. Yeah, Cheetah Chrome Motherfuckers kind of had that jazzy kind of off-kilter thing going on too. This is more straight ahead than CCM, I want to say. But almost like a De Kreutzen thing going on a bit, maybe as well. It's not totally straightforward hardcore. So this is your chance This is expensive now. Like the original, I looked it up on Discogs. It's like, I don't know, $260 or something like that on Discogs.
Oh, wow.
That's one I still
you know
have
that-
never found. It's hard to find that thing. And
You don't,
with
yeah,
all
that,
the other
the
Italian stuff being around, that one I've still never seen for sale ever. I still don't have it.
yeah, it does. It's one of those ones that like doesn't show up very often. So,
No.
it's nice to have this reissue.
It looks nice.
It looks like, I think this is like the original tape cover.
It is, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay. There you go. When Core did it, they did have this like big orange background and the small square in the middle, and then the logos on the side, if I remember. But yeah, it's kind of nice to have the original tape. And I think, like, I could be wrong. I think on the original tape, like, Negazione is on the A side and Declino is on the B side.
I have the tape, but I'm not in a place to pull it out. I actually got it at a record store in Boston
Wow.
years ago.
Weird.
Random find. Did you know those COR guys back in the day?
I didn't, because like that was a little bit before my time, but they're a little bit older than me, right? So like, the guy was Tim Bennett, and there's a very famous story about that label. Like he just one day he just decided that he didn't want to do it anymore, and he was going to go to Tibet to be a monk or something like that or whatever. And apparently he just put all of the Children of the Revolution stock that he had out on the street in Bristol, probably including a lot of these original records, perhaps. And people, the word got round, and everyone would just go down there and like grab, whatever records that he'd put out. But Shane took it over, right? It changed to Manic Ears Records, right? But Manic Ears is like a continuation of Children of the Revolution.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Very important Bristol name. There you go. That's my pick. If you love Italian hardcore, here's your chance to pick up a classic. 84. That's early. A lot of these bands. Go ahead, Rich.
Oh no, sorry. I just said true. I'm really distracted because my cat is like basically trying to walk on all like there's records everywhere, and I'm trying to like put him somewhere where there aren't records.
I was going to say something about Italian hardcore. That was it. Like, much like American hardcore, I guess. Like, some of these bands went a bit more rock. Especially Negazione. Negazione were kind of a big band. Like by the end of the '80s, like the early '90s, like playing festivals and stuff.
Yeah, they toured the U.S. too.
Oh yeah, did you see them?
No, before my time. But...
Okay. Yeah.
And they have records on American labels too.
Like they do, yeah. But my favorite's still like the Lo Spirito Continua. I think that's like the sweet spot where they're kind of edging a bit more not commercial, but bigger, more kind of metally. That's a great record. But I think at least I guess Wretched broke up before they went that way, and it's a mystery. Like every Italian hardcore band kind of just broke up, and then there was like no Italian hardcore for like decades. All right, that's my first pick. Rachel, what's your first pick?
Okay. Speaking of Italian hardcore.
Oh.
No. I've got a record by Nun, Australian Nun. This is I'm just going to show it. It is Fire of God's Love by Sister Irene O'Connor. She was an Australian nun. She was in Australia and also in like Singapore, where she nunned or whatever. And she was really into like she was clearly like a musician. Like she was a legit like driven to make music person. And she started like recording these kind of like, this like pop Catholic, whatever. But she ended up meeting up in Singapore with an Indonesian nun who was named Marimil Lobnaga. I wrote it down because I couldn't remember. And they they met in the 60s, and then in the mid 70s they got together and recorded this album together on like 4-track. At this point she was on Philips, so it's like she was on like, you know, a real label and everything. But they put together this like crazy, like psychedelic, like spooky record. Super echoey vocals. The recording is like really rudimentary and kind of weird, and they did all these weird engineering things. There's a song where like they used a church pump organ, like, you know, the foot pedal as like percussion. Like she basically like whomped it and like made like clicky noise. Wow. She was trying to make a bongo noise. Like it's a combination of like, I honestly think like she was kind of a visionary musically, and also just like these like limitations that they had. Yeah. It is. It's freaky. I also think it's like really beautiful, and it's super religious. It's like definitely like super Catholic. But it has like an ethos to it that is like, kind of makes you like see why people might be into religion. You know, it gives you an idea of this kind of like ecstasy and this mindfulness, and yeah, I really like, it's super good. And a lot of it is like it reminds me a little bit of these kind of childlike like early electronic music people like Bruce Hack or like Joe Meek. There's this weird like naivete to it. And there's a dude, there's like, it's mostly like, I think it's mostly like Irene O'Connor singing like multi-tracked with herself. I think there might be some other singers on it. I don't know if it says. It doesn't say. But there's a little cameo from Jesus. Like they found a priest who could sing like kind of like opera style. And he sings "I am the living bread." It's very incongruous with like these like ethereal women singing, and then there's just like, "I am the living bread," and like it's wow. Great. Like I highly recommend it. Like honestly, there's some songs in here that are like, as the kids say, bops, or maybe it's like as like younger middle-aged people say, they're bops. And is
this like from the 70s, 80s?
1973.
Oh, then it must be good if it's like 73.
Yeah, it is really legitimately good. It's
when you said Indonesia, I kind of like went, oh, because I was thinking, okay, I bet this is like a little bit psychedelic, because Malaysia, Indonesia,
yeah,
they had a lot of that like psychedelic stuff around that time.
Yeah. Oh, and there's a song that like she was the nun who was Indonesian was like involved in like the engineering of it. She didn't like write the songs or anything, but there is a song that's like a Singaporean Malay, like actually Muslim song of Thanksgiving. It's called Keshu Quran, and it's really, really good. But she learned it from the gardener at the nunnery or whatever. Taught her that song, and it's sung in Malay.
Wow, we've had the nuns on this show. That's definitely the first time we've had a record by an actual nun on this show.
Yeah.
Let's get the name of the...
Honestly, a lot of these like outsidery, like sometimes like the kind of world of outsider music and like these kind of religious things or whatever. Sometimes people can get really like into like bands who had like maybe one song that was kind of cool, or like the concept of them is cool, but the actual music is kind of cringy and not really that good. But like this is like legitimately great, wow. Like beautiful, moving, and freaky and scary album. But yeah, in a kind of way.
Let's get the name of the artist and the record one more time.
Oh, it's Sister Irene O'Connor.
Yeah.
The Fire of God's Love.
Fire of God's Love.
Yeah, the Mass song, the Mass Emmanuel, is really, really good. That one's like probably the danciest one because it's synths. I don't know. I mentioned it quite shortly. Like there's, she's playing like synths that sound like Super Mario Brothers synths or something like that. Like, it's really good.
I've definitely seen that cover before, but I don't think I've heard it.
Yeah, this is a like it actually was. It was pressed in like it's really expensive to get an original one, but it was pressed like in decent qualities in like Australia, quantities in Australia and in the United States. But this is a reissue that I think is like not licensed on Weird War that came out a few years ago. I was when I was looking around for information on her. I saw somebody has like remastered it with her permission, with her like participation, and is putting it out on a record soon. So that's pretty exciting.
Nice.
It sounds like they have like side by side of the two versions because the sound is like kind of shitty because they somewhat didn't know what they were doing, you know. So yeah, the remaster does sound really, really good. Like a lot more like depth and clarity. So
nice. Wow, that's I'm intrigued by this.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what's your first pick?
All right, so I mentioned to you guys before I'm in the middle of moving, so all my LPs are boxed up right now. So I haven't been buying stuff because I don't want to add to the mess. So this is the last two records that I bought are by the same guy, so I'm going to do them together.
All right.
So this is 245s by this guy Miles Conor, and Justin, do you know who this guy is?
Mm-mm.
From Boston. All right,
No.
so he is. Normally, I wouldn't buy like early rock and roll, rockabilly kind of stuff. Not my thing. But so this is the guy that was suspected as the art thief in the Gardner Museum robbery.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he
next to my dorm.
Yeah, and next to my dorm too. Justin and I went to college together. So. But yeah, so this guy was kind of like this famous like showman around town, like in the 50s and 60s, and he made a couple of these 45s, and they're pretty standard fare, like rockabilly-ish kind of loungy rock stuff of this late 50s, early 60s. But the story behind the records is like a little more interesting, just because of who the guy became. So he was possibly tied into like local mobsters, and he's definitely been in jail like multiple times. But he's just known as like this world-renowned art thief around Boston. And they always told, I guess, like the story they always said with this guy, with the cops told him, if you get caught for this crime, the only way you're going to get out is if you have like a Monet or something to treat for your freedom. So he like walked into the Museum of Fine Arts, took the painting off the wall, and just walked out in broad daylight with it. And then later, was caught and gave it back and stuff. But so the Gardner Museum is this like really elaborate old museum in Boston. It's right next to where Justin and I went to college. And these thieves went in posing as police officers, and they literally cut the paintings out of the frames, like with box cutters. And so the first person they suspected was this guy. And I didn't know he existed as like a local musician until watching. There's a lot of documentaries and podcasts and stuff about the robbery because it's never been solved. So I was immediately intrigued and was like, well, these are local and cool story behind them. So I was seeking them out, and they're like extremely difficult to even find copies of to buy. And randomly, both of them came up on eBay at the same time. I was able to score them pretty cheap. And the other weird part was one of them came from a guy in my hometown. Kind of added to the whole thing. But yeah, so they're not like, musically, they're not the greatest records I've ever heard, but I do, I have this pretty extensive local collection, and I thought these would be cool to have just because of the story behind them. So
that's sometimes my favorite thing. Like
music and more about the lore, but
yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, like
that heist was pretty crazy. Like
yeah,
reading about it.
Yeah, I have a friend who was actually walking by the building like while it was happening, unbeknownst to him.
What year was that? Was that in like the 80s?
93, I think.
Oh, in the 90s. Okay.
Still haven't
only
found
2 records.
As far as I know, like if you look on Discogs, he's got a CD and it's got like 20 songs on it, but the CD is like impossible to get. It's never been sold. And I think he has one track on one of those like Norton records, like whatever, teenage, whatever the fuck they're called things, Teenage Riot or whatever. So.
Teenage art theft.
Man, that's great. Sometimes the stories behind like these records are,
Yeah, the weird thing too is the records don't have years on them, so I don't know when they're from, but I believe they're from like the early to mid '60s, but I'm not totally sure. And it's also weird because like at the time, like a lot of these kind of records didn't come with picture sleeves,
Mm,
so
right.
it's pretty cool that this one's got a sleeve and it's got some like cool live shots on it. But it's same thing front and back, so not all that exciting, but pretty cool nonetheless.
Nice. Man, Nun, Art Thief. The pressure's on, Justin.
Yeah. Not gonna be very not like that. I just really pulled just 5 random records here.
Cool.
From my listening pile, but the first one is one of those cases where a band managed to record a bunch of things during their time, but release almost nothing. And I've been listening to a lot of Mod Revival the last couple of years, so I was excited to find this in a local store. So the band is Lay Elite. As you can see, 78 to 79. They only released one song during that time, and it was on this really weird like label sampler, which is kind of strange because they didn't release anything on that label. It's called like 499239, I think. Nice catchy name that means nothing, but one of the guys that started this band was a roadie for the Damned at the time.
Oh, okay.
Chris Grierson, I think was his name. Yeah. I don't know. It's good. It's classic Mod Revival stuff, but it almost sounds more modern for being 78 to 79. It's more like the Transmitters, or like the production's pretty crisp and modern in a weird way that doesn't sound old. But I don't know. It's pretty good. That's my first pick.
British band, right? I'm
yeah.
assuming.
London. Actually, one of the guys is French. There is a story on the back, but it's...
That's why their name is French.
A mess. Huh? What's that?
Is that on Detour Records?
This is on Unicorn Records. It was released in '87.
Okay. I guess like that.
The same Unicorn that Damaged was on, or was that like a... I mean, I'm sure there's more than one Unicorn Records. But I wonder.
It's a UK.
Unicorn was part of MCA, wasn't it?
Yeah. This is part of the cartel.
Yeah.
Oh, the Bristol connection again.
Was everything at the time part of the cartel, it seems?
But that was like Revolver, and right?
Yeah.
Revolver, the cartel, and Revolver had a record store in Bristol. And it wasn't the cartel like their distribution like part of Revolver, I think was the cartel. Yeah. I think that's correct.
And the Revolver that's here that I worked for a while actually started as the US version of the UK Revolver, but it has no connection anymore.
I did not know that there was
Midheaven Revolver was originally part of the US version of that Revolver.
Wow. I was going to say something about Mod Revival, then I forgot what it was. Yeah, Detour Records had a lot of like contemporary bands, right, that were doing like Mod Revival stuff, and it's real hit or miss. Like some of the stuff's like really good, and like some of it's not so good.
Most of them have at least one good song, but they also have a lot of crap.
I kind of like to get like the best of Detour, if that exists, you know. They did this band called The Letters, who were from my hometown of Bath. That single's amazing, right? What's it called? Why Nobody Loves Me? That's it, right?
Nobody Loves Me.
That's one of the all-time greats.
I finally got that last time I was in England.
Oh, yeah?
And I left it.
What?
Yeah. I went and I flipped through and I bought a bunch of stuff and I left it behind, and I got back to my hotel and I was like, what did I do that for? And so I went back to the guy's house the next day to get it.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
I was sweating just thinking about it.
Thankfully. I was just like, why did I leave that? That was one of my biggest wants. I had the money.
Somebody last year at Double Decker in Pennsylvania, before he closed, Someone traded in like an entire long box 45 of like all late 70s, early 80s mod stuff. And going through the box, I literally had never heard of any of the bands before.
There's so much stuff, right? I mean, I guess that the Circles, that's a big one, right?
Yeah, like I know them and Merton Parkas. And
Merton Parkas, the Letters.
like that stuff. But
yeah. I guess
it's
it's like
100 records I'd just literally never seen before.
I guess it's like the first revival, right, which is from the 80s, and then like the third wave, or whatever you want to call it, from like the 90s and the 2000s. But it's a bit of a minefield, like some of these genres are, but there's some great stuff out there. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's so many records like that I've listened to randomly at Jerry's or whatever that were just the most boring crap.
Yeah, it can be a little,
good stuff.
Generic, right? Kind of like, power pop or, as well.
Yeah.
It's like you've got to.
Yeah.
But
I did a power pop radio show once, and I was like, I shouldn't have done this. By the time I got like 2 or 3 hours in, I was like, I shouldn't have done this. I'm so like, I don't want to play this anymore. It was fun for like recently half an hour.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Justin.
There's that one, the band The Odds. Do you know them? They did that Saturday night. Was their single? That's I figured out recently. I mean, just looking at Discogs, that the guitar player was the saxophone player on all the Sade records.
Wow. I did not know that. Wow. Yeah, Mob Revival. Yeah, it's interesting. But I'm assuming that's a good one, though, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't. Yeah. Let's have a little look one more time, so everyone knows what. There we go. L'Élite. That's French. There you go. There you go. All right, time for my Pittsburgh pick of the week. I thought, I was certain that someone had shown this before, and it's okay. It didn't come up in the database, but if they have, it's fine. We touched on this last week. It's not like, it's not breaking the law to show a record that's already been shown. It's nice, It's nice if everything hasn't been. It's Pittsburgh last year. Sorry State Records. They call themselves like the dumbest band in hardcore. Don't know why. But it's the Illiterates.
Nice.
No experts. One of these records I don't really know what to say about it, because I feel like we have so many bands now doing the 80s US hardcore thing. Yeah. They're starting to kind of get a little bit all mushed together a little bit. To me, Electric Chair and Gun and The Hell and Personal Damage and the Invertebrates, and they all have their own original sounds going on. But it's kind of becoming I don't know. But the thing that kind of sets this record apart is the singer sounds like Ray Capo. Uncannily, so it kind of sounds like Ray Capo singing for a really pissed off, drunk, dumb, stupid, back to basics hardcore band. So, in other words, lovely stuff,
I didn't expect that. I assumed they had more of a California sound, but I guess maybe not. I haven't heard that one.
It's kind of snotty. It doesn't sound like any of the bands that I just already mentioned. They definitely have their own thing going on, but the thing that definitely stands out is the Ray Capo style vocals. But it's kind of great to hear Ray Capo singing for Not Youth of Today or Shelter, for a different kind of band. It's almost like Ray Capo got a different band together and went back to his roots, or started drinking and taking drugs and moved to Pittsburgh and gave up yoga. And
I wouldn't say that's Ray Capo's roots.
Well, the roots that he should have had.
Yeah.
It's fast. No, it's 12 minutes long, as most LPs are these days. It's great. It probably made a lot of people's end of year lists, I think, last year. That's probably why I thought it had been shown before. Just made it to Japan, so I picked it up last week. Pick it up if you like 80s US hardcore with Ray Capo, with Ray Capo singing. It's good stuff. This is that second LP, right? I think they have a 7-inch out, maybe too. But anyone seen this band? They sound like they would be a good live band.
I've heard they're good. I haven't like if they played here, but and I've been to Skull Fest that they have played, but it's never come together.
Okay, maybe I can pull this out. The poster with the photo of the band sitting on a tractor. Let's here it is. Let's have a look. Let's get it out. Oh God, it's massive.
Oh, nice.
Oh, the dumbest band in hardcore. That's the thing. Back to the cutest band in hardcore. Chronic Sick, right? That's it. See, it makes sense. Makes sense now. Thanks, Jeff. I haven't actually looked at this until now. I'm never going to be able to put this back in the fucking record now. So there we go. Great stuff from last year. Illiterates. No experts. That's my second pick. Pittsburgh pick of the week.
There's always another band from Pittsburgh.
There's always something coming along down the pipe. All right, Rachel, what's your second pick?
Okay, I'm gonna do a 7-inch. This is a member of this band, this Philly band, Blow Dryer.
Blow Dryer.
But this is a solo project from a member of this band, in Sarah Everton, and it's called Added Dimensions. I'm gonna take it out of the sleeve. And yeah, it's just them and a drummer on some songs. And this is on Domestic Departure Records, which is Erica, who was on the show with me.
There you go.
Her label, and she like designs the covers for all the records and stuff, like Reissue. But yeah, this is like it's a little bit like C86-ish, like it's a little bit like kind of jangly, like poppy, like super catchy, but then it also has this like kind of edgy, angular post-punk style to it. There's songs on it that remind me. Oh yeah, that's something I was gonna pull out for like a reference. Wait, let's see if I can get it. I'm really close. It might be, this section might be close to me. Yes, I can see it. Hold on. Just here. Talking amongst spells. So it reminds me a little bit of.
Oh, I can't wait.
No, it's in the next. It's in the next move.
Got to fire this stuff properly.
There's one song on here.
Oh,
it's called Interruption. It reminds me of Chandra, which is a whole nother thing. 13-year-old no wave singer from New York City, from like late 70s, early 80s.
That's a great pick.
Yeah,
Well.
it's like this spare kind of no wavy, kind of dancey, and like really like kind of like cynical and depressing lyrics, so you wouldn't really notice unless you were listening, you know. But yeah, it's really good, super catchy, and yeah, it's awesome.
I love that.
I'm interested in. I know I shouldn't say it, but I'm interested in the big record that you just showed.
Yeah, I can talk about it. I mean, yeah, this is so good. This is she was 12 or 13, I think, and her dad was kind of like a scenester dude, and it's like a duo of her and another really young girl, and yeah, I mean it's not, this is not like a novelty record, like it's, you know, it has like very like you can tell she wrote the lyrics, and it's like has this very like childlike perspective, but the music is like super cool and hip, like you know, that like New York City disco / punk scene or whatever, like Bush Tetris or ESG and things like that. So yeah, that's a great record. I did two records.
Let's show the first one again, so we don't forget what it was.
Added Dimensions. She has a tape too.
There you go.
What is it?
Yes, 7-inch. I guess this is the last record to ever come out on Domestic Departure Records. It's not going to be a label anymore. So what are you saying?
What is it? What's the first word of the band name?
Added.
Added.
Like ADDED. Added Dimensions.
Added Dimensions.
Yeah, it's hard to read on the cover. It's like in a colored lettering.
Yeah, Erica is sadly given up the label.
Yeah, it's rough. There's so many records coming out all the time that it's really hard to like stand out.
I was thinking about that the other day. Like, it must be tough, right? I mean, just the amount of, like you said, just the amount of like new releases coming out is crazy.
Yeah. Well, I find like I try to keep up, and it's like I can't spend any time with anything because I just keep finding new. Like I like pick a song, play it on my radio show, whatever, and then like just move on.
I mean, it's not a bad problem to have for people, you know, for us people who like records and music, but you're right. I do find myself like not spending enough time with records that I buy. You know,
or if you do, there's a lot more that aren't getting listened to.
Exactly.
If you do decide to spend a lot of time with one, the rest are just going to sit here on the floor.
Right. It's an endless problem that we'll never solve, Justin. It's like an endless struggle. Right? But you know, it could be worse. There could be nothing coming out. That'll be much worse, right? There you go. Chris, what's your second pick?
All right. This one actually just came into the store like a few hours ago. And we put it on, so we couldn't figure out what the fuck it was, and it's really funny. This band called Culture Side.
Oh yeah,
Culture Side.
Oh, I know that. That California girl. You'd never heard them?
Yeah, there's no band name on it, and there's no album title, so we had to like search it out on Discogs, and we were listening to it, and it's like really fucking hilarious. Like these guys just like singing over actual pre-recorded like David Bowie and Bruce Springsteen songs.
Yeah,
it's like fucking funny.
Is their name not on one of the signs? I thought it was for somebody. I had that at one point.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it's right on the front. But we didn't
right on the front.
Tacky souvenirs of pre-revolutionary America.
And from Texas, right? I think.
Yeah, it's like people from Really Red and like AK-47.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, I haven't thought about that record for like since the 80s. I remember like in the tape trading days, someone like taped it on the B side of like another thing, and I was like, "What the hell is going on here?" Like, did this guy do it? You know, in his bedroom, and just send me this. But
we just put it on in the store, and we're like cracking up.
What song does it have on again? Is there a Michael Jackson song on there? No.
Yeah, the funniest one was they do American Band by Grand Funk, but it's called Industrial Band. And it was like making fun of industrial bands for having like Nazi imagery and stuff. Like really fun. Yeah, so this is a pleasant surprise from a buy that we made tonight.
It's Culture Side, and what's the name of the album?
Tacky Souvenirs of Pre-Revolutionary America. Yeah, they did the cover so well, I didn't even realize that their name was on it.
That's a wild record. I haven't thought about that record in decades.
But we didn't know what to expect, and I was like, isn't this just Bruce Springsteen? And then the guy started singing and like shredding guitar over it.
Did they get in like
CIA?
No, they have a record on CIA though.
That's not that one.
Did they get in trouble for that
That's what I'm wondering. It doesn't seem like it because you can sell it on Discogs.
Right. They didn't
It's
get
not-
taken to court or anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably no one noticed that they were doing that. I mean, it is like
I wonder at the time.
it's fairly well known, but only within a really small group of people.
Right.
Like,
Until today.
We just ratted them out.
yeah.
right.
There's some cop watching.
Yeah, AI is like crawling this right now.
All right.
That's an amazing pick, man. That's like, I remember getting that tape. I remember like just getting it and thinking, what the hell is this? And we did like it though. We played it a ton because it was like, it's so much fun to listen to.
Yeah, a friend of ours that's like an ex local record store employee sold us like a couple crates of records, and it was a lot of interesting like indie and post punk and weirdness. And this was in here, and we're just like, what is this thing? And threw it on, and we're like, holy shit.
Well, so no one had ever heard it before, right?
No, I didn't even know what it was. But then the weird part is that looking at it now, it's the drummer from Really Red. And I bought some records off of him like a month or two ago.
Wow.
And he was mentioning like all this stuff he was working on. For all I know, he could have mentioned this band and it didn't even like register with me. So.
Mike, when you first heard it, did you or one of your friends blind buy it in the store?
You couldn't get that record, It's like you couldn't. We probably had a look for it, but like no, you couldn't buy it in England in like
It wasn't a
87,
cool.
88,
86, yeah.
86, 87. Yeah. So I probably would have gotten that tape in like probably a bit later, so like 87. But yeah, we definitely had a look for it though, Justin. Definitely.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it. I would have bought it if I saw it. Like I had it on a tape, like someone just taped it.
It's like I want it like so badly now that Chris has shown it. It's like
I was like,
angry.
does that go for money? Like probably
It's
does.
like $40 on Discogs.
Not bad.
Okay, the hunt is on for Colt. That's a great pick. That's amazing.
I'm gonna buy it now so you don't get it. Mike.
Right.
I'm not going to order anything off Discogs from the US. At the current exchange rate, that's like
Yeah, you're going to get hammered.
because that's big bucks. that's a C bank officer for loan territory. Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. And it's great that you'd never heard it before as well.
Yeah, it's always a pleasant surprise when things like that roll through. So
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing like you want to come across without knowing anything about it too.
Yeah.
Like, that's a perfect record for that.
For sure.
Why did someone
Culture
just press some really lo-fi like rock music onto
That needs a reissue. Maybe not.
Yeah. I don't know if you can do it.
Yeah, pretty hard.
Painkiller. There we go. All right, Justin, what's your next pick?
All right. I picked this one just because I really miss seeing this band all the time and how great they were. I believe most of us, if not all of us, know members of this band.
Oh,
They were from here. The first look back and laugh.
Oh yeah,
Casey.
that was a great live
Casey.
band.
They were so good every time. Just a crushing monster on the stage. And obviously they're all in a million bands still. But this was the one.
Is who's in Planet on a Chain? No, is it?
Brian and
Tobias?
Tobias. Both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Actually, and the drummer. So it's 3 of the 4.
Oh.
From the
Oh wow.
Iron Planet.
So everybody except
Tobias.
Casey.
So it's just Plan on a Chain with Dave singing. I mean, no, it's Look Back and Laugh with
Kind of.
Dave singing.
Sort of. No Casey and no Mark.
Okay.
yeah,
Brian plays
Casey's
guitar.
in Powerhouse now, which kind of cracks me up.
Wasn't Casey
They play
playing
all- they
with
play pretty often.
Yeah, I saw him at the beginning of this year, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you're in this band."
Wasn't Casey playing with? Oh God, I'm forgetting his name. One of the guys from Rancid. Band.
Yeah,
Lars.
Lars.
Last.
Old Festival.
So, Skunks.
That-
I assume they're still a band, but I don't think they're doing a lot lately.
that record came out at a time when I wasn't like buying anything new. So
This one
was like, yeah, like just that. I was like, is that like early 2000s, something like
I think
that?
this was like 2004.
Okay, yeah, like I
I think it
wasn't
was
buying
right
anything
before I
new.
moved to San Francisco.
Right.
Recorded in 2003, so yeah, 2004.
There you go. 20 years.
What a good band. I miss them a lot.
It's actually been nice for me because like I kind of missed out on a lot of this stuff, and so I've been like, picking it up for most of it's kind of cheap, and it's nice to kind of buy this stuff like 20 years later because it's like
Damn,
it's getting like
20. Yeah.
20. Yeah, it's kind of getting quite far in the rearview mirror now. Like it's almost like there's classic. We talk about classics from like the 90s and stuff like that now, right? It's far away enough that things can be talked about like that. But yeah. I bet they were good.
I'd say this show is like a filter for you of like that stuff, like it's like how there's like a million songs that were played on the radio and were big hits, but they didn't make it through the filter to like classic rock radio or to oldies radio.
Right.
So this is like it like picks out the bands for you from the early 2000s.
There's so many though. There's like so many.
There were.
And people don't really. It's not far away enough that people are kind of talking about it like fondly, like it's. But maybe another 5-10 years, it's going to be kind of like that, right?
Yeah. Someone's
old days.
writing a book on Bandana Thrash.
Really?
Yeah. He came and bought all of those records for like $2 a piece or whatever at the record store at the time. He's in New Jersey.
625 Thrashcore.
Yeah.
I missed that whole. I missed that whole thing. I don't know how.
I didn't. Did you miss it or you missed?
I was going to say,
I was still living in Boston at the time, but for some reason I didn't really go to many of those shows. Like, I think I only went to 2 shows at the Berwick.
You never saw Melee?
That was where most of that. I don't know if I ever did actually see Melee. Maybe once.
Yeah, that was the first show we did at the Berwick, and everybody had to wear like bandanas over their faces because there was so much dust getting kicked.
The dust.
Oh. Luckily, everyone had bandanas.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like just take it off your leg and put it on your face.
I did see What Happens Next and crucial section in Osaka. That's like the ultimate bandana thrash.
That was one of the shows I saw at the Berwick. It was What Happens Next and Life's Halt, that tour.
Oh yeah, I saw that tour.
One.
Yeah, that was in Pittsburgh. It was like, I just went to like every show at Roboto in Pittsburgh when it was like there would be like 4 or 5 shows a week, and probably 2 of them would be bandana thrash. So I saw a lot. I saw like Tear It Up a lot.
Tear It Up was one of the better ones, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny though that all that stuff was like, okay, so let's go back. That's like Heresy and like Lam. They were doing that, right? Like in Europe in like the 80s, bandanas around the wrists and around the jeans and everywhere. And they were kind of like, they'd probably seen photos of American bands from the early 80s wearing that, and then they started wearing it. And then like in the 2000s, it kind of all came back again. It was like, like Japanese bands dressing like Heresy, who were dressing like 7 Seconds or whoever, like in the 80s. So it's pretty funny. I think we're about due for a bandana thrash revival. What do you think?
It's been 20 years. So.
It's been 20 years. It's about time. I'm going to change my order around a little bit. It's because it's a very, very like loose tie-in to a couple of things that got mentioned. One was like the culture side thing, lampooning like industrial metal, and then another one was like no wave. And it's also my Italian sub-theme that I kind of have going on here. So I saw this record like a couple of weeks ago, and it was in the 70s punk section, used, but it totally looks like a 90s industrial metal LP. And I had it in my hand, and I was looking at it, and I was like, I don't know, and it was like, it said it's from Italy, and it said it's the first punk record from Italy. And I was looking at the cover and I was like thinking, really? Because it looks like this.
Well,
Oh, nobody knows what this is.
I don't know it.
I mean, I didn't until like 2 weeks ago, and it's a WAYLT record. 1979. It's Gaznevada is the name of the band. Look at this. Is a terrible looking record. You know?
It was horrible.
Please, you can understand why I almost like didn't buy it. Right?
Is it on Rave Up?
It's not. It's on Harpo's music from Bologna, and it was one of the. Again, it was originally only a cassette tape, like in 1979, and it got put out on CD like at sometime in like 2009. This is the first time ever on vinyl. Came out in 2021, but it's apparently
Was that the cover from the 90s on the CD?
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. But I think this was on the original tape too. I think, but like smaller.
Yeah.
We got Robert Squibb on the vocals, Sandy Banana on vocals. I know. I just had to buy it. I couldn't leave it there. But it's a weird record. So this band got really big. Like they got like mainstream success. Like after this, they kind of were a big like synth pop band in Italy in the 80s. But they were punk before that. But like it's kind of all over the place. And it's the worst song on the album is the first song. So there's a hurdle to get over. Well, there's two hurdles. The first is the cover. Then there's the first song, and it's called "Everybody Enjoys with Reggae Music." Is the name of the song, and it's but it has that kind of no wave thing going on. There's kind of a reggae beat, but it's really weird, and there's like saxophone and stuff. And then it just goes boom, straight into this like Killed by Death, like punker. Straight up fast punk song. It's kind of all over the map. There's saxophone, there's no wave, there's punk, there's like ripping guitar solos. It's amazing. I kind of thought it might be like a well-known record, but maybe not. But it's like apparently it was the first ever Italian like full-length punk record, which I don't know if that's true, but that's what it says in various places on the internet. So
when did it originally come out?
79 as a cassette tape only. So does that count as an LP? It doesn't count as an LP, but like it's great. It's a real fun listen. I want to say that it kind of maybe sounds a little bit like, not sounds like, but it maybe has something in common with that band CCCP, Fidele alla Linea. Maybe they're kind of doing a lot of different things, you know. It just goes from like a straight up like Killed by Death punk song into like a synthy like no wave song, and like it's cool. Yeah.
interesting.
And then I think their second and third albums are full on like synth pop, because they had some hits I think in Italy in the 80s. So that's my pick. Terrible looking record.
Weird.
Great. Harpo's Bazaar, Harpo's Music, 1979. Check it out. All right, Rachel, what's your next?
Okay. Last time I was on here, I didn't show anything Chumbawamba related, but today I have something
Nice.
Chumbawamba related. It's not Chumbawamba. It doesn't. I guess it technically has a member of Chumbawamba in it. This is a band that toured with Chumbawamba. They did a tour called the Fuck Me Jesus Tour together. They did a song together. And actually their first record was 7-inch that came out on Rugger Bugger Records, which is like Sean Forbes, I think.
Yes, yeah, that's Sean's label, yeah.
Yeah. And then when they put out their LP, it was produced by members of Chumbawamba. I meant to check, actually. I can't read all this. I can't read like the small print on it because I'm old. But the drummer from Chumbawamba plays drums. I'm pretty sure that there's some vocals by Chumbawamba people on here. But it's hip hop. It's Credit to the Nation.
Ooh.
Do you remember this band, Mike?
I
They
do.
had some hits in the UK.
I do remember. Yeah, it's been a
You guys
while.
they did like if you ever heard the song Enough is Enough by Chumbawamba, MC Fusion from this band is the one who says give the fascist man a gunshot. And yeah, it's a really cool band. It also in the band I think is this guy called Simon Common Knowledge who used to play with. He didn't play with. He's like an old guy. Like he was around. Like there's in the early '70s. Donovan had a band called Open Road for his album Open Road, and the band continued without Donovan, and they replaced Donovan with this guy Simon, and then he was also like kind of an auxiliary member of Chumbawamba, and he was in Credit to the Nation, and it's like obviously super political, like still like holds up too, like there's like pretty much nothing on here that's like stupid. It's like anti-fascist, feminist. It's obviously like anti-racist, and it's very influenced by like Public Enemy. I'd say it's probably pretty influenced by KRS-One. It's very British Caribbean. Like it's they're all like first and second generation immigrants from the Caribbean. Right. So the vocals have the like Birmingham accent. They have like patois. Like they're not trying to sound American like a lot of British rappers and like British musicians in general often try to sound American, but it's just like very British sounding. And yeah, it's like it's very like it's punk influenced and rock influenced. They sampled Nirvana and also Public Enemy on their first single, which is "Call It What You Want," which is on here. But that's a record that was on Rugger Bugger. But yeah, it's great, and it definitely like you can feel like it has a little bit of like Chumbawamba were smart enough to be like, we can't make a hip hop record; it would be stupid as shit. But we can bring like our like dance chops and pop chops to like a group that knows what they're doing with hip hop. So yeah, and it's not this. I had to order it in England and have it mailed to my brother in England because you can't. I've never found it in the United States. Every once in a while it'll show up, but it's really expensive. But it's a pretty cheap record in the UK. It's one of those records that is still like. It's not that expensive, but all the copies are in the UK because they had some hits. Like I think they had at least one top 40 single.
And they did, yeah. That's another record I haven't thought about for a long time. Yeah, but I do remember them, and like the UK had a pretty strong rap scene around that time. Actually, like political rap. Gunshot is another good band from that era. Rap group. Nice. Is that on Rugger Bugger as well? Did I?
No, I think it's on One Little Indian.
Okay. Okay.
Or an Agipunk. Actually, can't see the label name on here. Oh yeah, no, it's One Little Indian.
Okay. Nice.
I just realized it's TPLP, which is
there you go.
That's their numbering scheme.
All right, Chris, what's your next?
All right, next one, another couple mass things because I was gonna put those Miles Connors records away and was flipping through my box of local stuff. Another couple 45s. So this is this band called Blue Moon.
Blue Moon.
Justin might know these.
Worcester. Right.
And they're from Worcester, Mass. 3-piece band. They have like alternating guy and girl vocals. But Worcester's kind of cool because I think at the time in like 78, 80-ish, they had actual punk bands, whereas Boston didn't really have that kind of thing going on. More like kind of power pop and like art rock kind of stuff. So these are like a little more sort of nastier sounding punk. The first one's pretty lo-fi and very, they very Kill by Death, as you were saying before. The second one's a little poppier, super, super catchy stuff. And then they have a couple comp tracks. But there was like this little scene in Worcester called Wormtown, and they had their own label called Beast Records. So there's a comp of all the Wormtown bands, and they have some songs on it. But it's just kind of good lo-fi. You can tell they're into some like whatever 70s rock garage stuff, and then decided to get into punk. So they still got like long hair on the record covers and kind of just like dirtbag looking.
Oh, there it is.
Very hard record to get. But
yeah, the 7 inches or
All of them, really.
all of them. They're like only a couple hundred press, so they're pretty tough to get. I actually met the guy that like I don't think he put them out, but he like helped distribute them back in the day, and I was able to get copies from him. So.
Nice.
But he runs a movie theater up the street from the record store. So.
I don't have any of
I
those
love Worcester.
Blue Moons.
I don't know why. I always have.
Yeah, the label's interesting because they only have like half a dozen releases, and they're all very like punk with a capital P kind of punk. They're not like power pop kind of leaning towards punk or whatever. They're actually kind of just like scrunky, noisy punk stuff. So
Wow.
The comp does have some crappy songs on
the
it.
comp definitely has some shitty songs on it.
Yeah, there's some wannabe rock stuff that's not good, but there's some good stuff too.
Yeah. The one funny stuff on that comp is the I forget what it's called, but it's like the guy who's just like the home recording. That's like one person singing. And I don't think it even has backing music behind it, but it's like some kind of wannabe like weird Lou Reed type vocals.
It's been so long since I listened to any of these, really.
Blue Moon.
Yeah, so one of the records is called Blue Moon, and the other one is called the Blue Moon Band. But if you look them up online, it should they should all lead to the same place. So.
Wow.
Crazy Jack and the Heart Attacks.
Crazy Jack is good.
Sure, Justin, hold up that comp as well. There you go. That's
The Towel.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the
weird
one. The Towel is the band that's not good, or the funny one.
what are the good bands on Wormtown 78? What are the
Blue Moon.
Blue Moon?
Band.
Crazy Jack is
Crazy Jack.
Crazy Jack is good.
It's so funny. There's so little. Like I know quite a lot about the early Connecticut punk scene, which is I don't want to say it, but but they're so close together. But there wasn't that much. Like there was a lot of like crossover with like like Westchester County and New York, but there wasn't like so much with like Western Mass and Central
Boston.
Yeah.
Mass.
The other cool band on that comp is called Hooker, and that one's a little more like kind of hard rock.
It's what, 4 bands, right? It's Crazy Jack, Hooker, Blue Moon Band,
And the Towel.
and the Towel. And Urban Verb is the song.
I know I'm not talking.
Yeah,
about
Rachel. What's kind of weird about that too is I bought some flyers the other day from this old Western Mass guy, and there was like flyers for it was like the Buzzcocks and 999 playing in Sunderland.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Sunderland from your time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was like a club there called the Rusty Nail, and like all these big UK bands used to come through there, which I just think is like super really random and bizarre.
Yeah, Massachusetts is so small though. It's kind of like it's almost like you're just playing in the suburbs of Boston.
Well, that's not even the suburbs. That's like. That's
I know it's not. It's not actually, but I'm just saying compared to other parts.
Yeah. But that's just straight up like cornfields and UMass Amherst.
Yeah.
Is that where Sunderland is?
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah, it's like
I've never
Western.
heard of it.
We have a Sunderland. There's a Sunderland in the UK too, right?
Yeah, you have Northampton too.
Which is we have everything.
Yeah, everything we have in Massachusetts, you probably already had in England.
Yeah.
But Sunderland in England is where Leatherface come from.
It's almost like it is like a mini England or like a neo England.
Neo England,
as they call it.
Don't worry, you're independent.
Speaking
now.
of which, it's not my turn.
Man, I don't know why, but I'm kind of really intrigued by Crazy Jack. I just like the name.
Crazy Jack and the Heart Attacks.
They didn't have a record, right? Just the comp songs?
They have one of those splits with the Commandos.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So they either have like one or two songs.
That's right.
It's a great band name.
The whole you can listen to the whole comp on YouTube. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
The Wormtown 78?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty low rent stuff, which is cool.
Nice. I mean, I would definitely buy that if I saw it. Not that I'm gonna.
Yeah, the comp LP is like extremely rare. I think they only pressed a couple hundred of it.
Okay.
I bought this when that lady had the store in the barn in like Sterling or whatever the fuck it was.
Oh, the Record Hog lady?
The Record Hog lady? Yeah.
Yeah, she has a new store and it has like really, really horrible reviews on like Google and Yelp.
Weird. Where is it?
Clinton, maybe?
Oh, right. Yeah, I also bought a Minor Threat 7-inch in there that day. I think. That was weird. Supposedly, this was the copy that the guy who did the Worcester College radio show played when it came out on that show.
Wow.
I know one of the stores here bought a storage
Unverifiable.
unit and they had all this. I think it was Welfare Records bought a storage unit and it was the guy that ran the label or something, and he had like test presses. It's like crazy shit, but I missed the boat on those, so just pretend that I didn't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, I like it especially, too, because it's sort of like what led to essentially our scene, and yours, too, I'm sure. It was like
Right.
the closest thing, you know. So, definitely sentimental.
Regional comps are great.
Mm-hmm. Even when they're bad, they're good.
Even, exactly,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
For somebody, at least.
I would think that this might be one of the first American like actual like underground punk comps.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anything that's like really punk that's earlier than this, but I could be mistaken.
Now I'm going to think about that for a while.
We're all going to think about it. We're thinking about it now.
Yeah, I mean, 78 is pretty early.
Yeah.
I think it actually came out in like the beginning of '79.
Okay.
And if you look at the like the liner notes for the comp, the bands are very incestuous too. So there's a lot of crossover with members, and so I assume it was just a small scene, and they all kind of did whatever they could do.
Nice. All right.
Next,
Justin.
All right. I guess more early 2000s. Maybe this is also for you.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
I imagine we all remember the very brief moment when it seemed like Copenhagen was taking over the world. This one was kind of missed because it was before all the others, but I think it's by far my favorite from that whole world.
Ooh.
And it is the whole LP.
that's a cool record.
That's right.
It's awesome. It kind of reminds me of the Honka's record, that German punk 7-inch. There's a lot about this that reminds me of that record where like the voice cracks, because they were really young when they made this record, and his voice was like cracking, and he's singing about hating your mom or I love your mom. That's what it is.
Aw.
Recorded in October of 2000, so yeah, it's like right before Amdi Peterson's Army and that stuff. I think at least two of these guys were in most of those bands. Casper, Morton. Oh, there's two Mortons.
Oh.
That's it. That's what I got.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that until maybe a couple of years ago. Bought it out in the wild. In fact, it's amazing.
It got reissued. I forget which that label was. This was originally on Nine Lives, and then Kiernaspend, right? I think that's who repressed it.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the first version. 2001.
Hul.
Hul, which means whole.
Yeah. Copenhagen was ruling the world But a little bit after that, right? Like you said.
Yeah, like 2002, 3.
2000.
Yeah. Young Westerners, Andy Peterson's Army. So slightly crustier one. Paragraph 119, is that what it was called?
Yep.
Something like that.
I forgot about that band. Yeah.
Yeah. They had a few records, right? They had at least an LP and a 7-inch? You think?
There's definitely a 7-inch.
Mm.
Peter from APA used to come over here a lot to hang out with my friend out in deep Western Mass, and they made some. They made a record while he was here. He stayed for like a month, and they made an LP that I think they only made like 100 copies of, and it's called Green Mansions, and it's like this kind of weird experimental thing with like I think it's just like drums and like Farfisa organ.
Wow.
Peter did this. I think it's like maybe a CD or YouTube only thing. I think it was with Justin. It's like a 3-way comp or something, but one of his songs on it is incredible. It's just Peter and acoustic guitar, folk. It's all in Danish. It's like such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song.
He has that solo 45 that's pretty good with him just like standing on the cover.
Yeah.
He gave them all to my friend Mike, who then gave them all to me. So I had like 50 of those at one point that I couldn't even give them away to people. Probably still have them in my basement or something.
Beautiful.
That's a good record, actually. Then, I mean, yeah.
When was that? Like, I do remember him coming into the record store and being like, "Wait," like, and because we, like, Bill and I had our record stores originally in Western Mass, but I didn't realize he was recording music.
Yeah, he used to come visit our friend Mike that lives out in Pittsfield.
Yeah,
you might have probably met him at the record store.
Yeah,
but he would stay for like months at a time. And that was
the Green Mansions were like 2009, 2013, 2015. Around that time.
Yeah. I think they were going for this like Black Randy in the Metro Squad kind of thing.
I didn't even. Yeah, Bill didn't even tell me about that apparently, or I forgot.
Cool. All right, let's go back to UK '86. This is something that I hadn't heard personally until a couple of weeks ago. Like in the UK in like the 80s, we were like the punks were very into heavy metal in England. You know, it's all over the place. It's in there with like from anything from like Amoebics to like Concrete Socks to from like Deviated Instinct. There's so much like metal in the 80s UK punk, and because I know for a fact that everybody was like listening to Metallica and Celtic Frost, and it was coming out in the music. So this is a band that kind of was not metal. When they're from Ipswich, which is like where Extreme Noise Terror from, but they were called the Prospects with an X. Like when they first started, there's a contemporary band called Prospects from Singapore.
Yeah, with two X's.
With two X's. This is like with one X, and they were just an anarcho-punk band, like in '81 or whatever. And then they started listening to Metallica and blah 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 blah. And they made like a 12-inch EP, which is like it might have been a bit forgotten, but I think it's great. It's up there with like the greats from that time. It's Annihilated, Path to Destruction. There you go. This is what we're talking about, Guys who are anarcho-punks but are now wearing like flipped-up baseball hats and crimping their hair. It's English Dogs, it's Broken Bones, it's metallic riffs, but it's also crusty. So it's like, it's like straddling that, moat between like thrash metal, UK hardcore, and like crust. It's like all in there. Crusty credentials, artwork by Mid from Deviated Instinct. It's a good looking record, nice black and white. I think this is like the only black and white record they had. I looked on Discogs, they definitely went like full on like thrash metal after this, because they only have like very brightly colored CDs on labels like Metalworks after this. So I think this is the where it all ends. This is great. Like if you like like the 80s kind of crusty metallic hardcore, it's a must. I would say it's up there. You know, it's one of those ones that like people who are pure metalheads didn't like, because like they weren't quite good enough at their instruments, and it's a little bit ramshackle. But then it's like too metal for punks. It's one of those that kind of it kind of falls right in the middle. Like nobody likes it because it's like, you know, it's like not punk enough. But what, you know, it's one of those. But yeah, it's great stuff. Agipunk reissued it, 2011. That's already a long time ago. But yeah, originally from '86 came out. But I would definitely recommend this to like young people these days who like, you know, still wearing the anarchy straps and the chaos pouches, and you know, looking for a like bit of like metallic crust, but with a bit of like a thrash metal thing going on too. It's a great looking record. I mean, Mid's art is amazing. 4 songs, and they're all kind of long. But, yeah, anarcho punks who discovered Metallica is basically what this is all about, right?
I've seen that a bunch of times, but I don't think I ever noticed the band name on the bottom. I think I just assumed the band was Path to
Destruction. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this is like hand drawn by Mid, right? The logo. Whereas this is like this is definitely Letraset, which we had back in the 80s.
I've got plenty in drawers.
Me too.
Yeah. There you go. UK 86, weird time actually. Really, like a lot of people didn't like, you know, the metal influence coming into the hardcore scene and stuff, you know. But
yeah, pretty popular these days. So
yeah, but back then people were, you know, really not happy about it. You know, we can blame Metallica. I mean, seriously. I mean, everyone was listening to Metallica and then going a little bit metal. You know? So I don't have a problem with it, either then nor now. You know, so it's good. Crimpers, were they a thing in the States? Or did people like start crimping their hair?
Yeah,
instead of like spiking it up, you would start like crimping it. So it was like Check Your English Dogs and Broken Bones records from like '87 for that like stylistic shift. You know.
I'm not sure if that happened in the U.S. in the punk scene. It did in metal, but I don't know. No one's old enough to remember. Bill.
Bill. Maybe that was a real like UK thing. All the goths used to like crimp their hair, you know, and like.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah.
But that crusty crimp was later on, like it kind of emulating that British 80s thing. Right, but I don't know. I can't picture anybody who was doing that in the 80s. Well, what about like maybe, I don't know. Like what about bands like Crucifix and all those like San Francisco anarcho bands? Did they have crimped hair? I don't know.
Let us know in the comments.
Let us know in the comments.
It feels like maybe when they had like, what was that band like after Crucifix?
Proud Flesh.
They were crimpers, I bet you.
Probably. I played a show with them. I don't know how long ago now. Maybe 15 years ago. Anti-Sect and Proud Flesh and my band.
Wow, it's like crusty guys that kind of start getting into like a ministry and stuff.
Yep.
That's my fourth pick. Annihilated. I'm not sure. I can't recommend anything after this because I've not heard it, but it's definitely thrash metal. CDs with color covers. It's got to be thrash metal. All right, Rachel.
It's ready. It's my turn. Okay.
It's your turn.
Okay, so this is my New England band. It's a band that I think formed in like '77. They have a definite like KBD vibe to them. they didn't put out a record till 82 or 83. They're from New England. They're not. So recently I won't like name and shame anyone, but recently I was involved in a discussion where we were like talking about some bands. Like we're making a list of bands and putting where they were from. And someone said, Drop Dead, Boston/New Hampshire. And this band's not from Boston/New Hampshire. They're not from Connecticut. Yeah, they're not from Massachusetts. They're not from Rhode Island. They're from Vermont. Words.
Yep.
Fucking great. Like, you don't hear about this record. You don't hear about this band. They've like continued to exist, like kind of big. Like they put out tapes and stuff till the 90s, but it's their only record. It's on blue vinyl. They put it out themselves. And it's definitely like it's almost like if someone told me someone made this record as like a fake parody, like early 80s hardcore record, I would kind of believe them. Like the song titles are like Reagan. There's a song here called AFL-CIO, which I cannot figure out if it's I think it's pro-union. There's a Christmas song, Santa's Cadillac, which talks about the reindeers unionizing. There's a song called Digger, which is about digging holes. It's so good. Like it's great. Like it's a like catchy, like good songs. Absolute just like basic like punk rock. Like they get called a hardcore band. I wouldn't say they're even a hardcore band. They're like a punk rock band. But it is that kind of KVD. It's a little later than that, like I think time wise, but they were around during that period. And they ran for mayor of Burlington as a band against Bernie Sanders.
Against Bernie Sanders?
Yeah. Apparently, like while Bernie Sanders was not running, like it wasn't during an election. They just started putting like ads in the paper being like, we're running for mayor. Our platform is like more missiles on the riverfront and like all this stuff. Like, but yeah, I think they kept playing until their guitarist died, maybe like 10 years ago. They would still just every once in a while play for like the 75 people who like remembered them and cared about them. But yeah, this is like a fantastic record, which I don't think many people like. How many punk bands are there from Vermont? Like,
not a lot.
No. Those are great. The two singles are awesome. I like.
Yeah.
Justin, did you get copies from Community Chest back when we went there?
I think
maybe, but I also knew somebody before that existed that had like boxes of both of them. So I may have had it already by that point. That was like the first thing that I had heard that wasn't like more like Black Flag or like early punk that was local and wasn't something everybody knew of. Like that song Weapons Factory was probably the first song I heard like that.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah.
And it's about like a weapons factory in Burlington, which is now closed thanks to Words and their mayoral tenure.
Wow.
Those records finally got a little expensive too. It took a long time, but people finally caught on, I think. Well, hopefully that's what that means, that people want it, not
Rachel,
yeah,
did you ever
maybe like $100 record now. What's that?
Did you ever meet Mark Dargy through the record store? Yeah, he at some point in like the mid '90s, I don't know if he was friends with them or what, but he bought out like all the copies that they had.
Oh yeah.
And he had a record store that was around for like 2 years in like 96, 97, somewhere around there, and he was always pushing those records on us.
How much were they? $5.
At the time, they were like $10 each.
Yeah. They remind me a little bit of Cyanamid. They have a kind of similar trajectory of like nobody really paid attention to them for a long time. And Cyanamid played a reunion like a couple of years ago, and they were just like they had their 7-inch from the 80s, and they were like $5, and like they're like, yeah, like some guys told us like, oh, it goes for a lot of money on eBay, but we're like, we don't care, we want people to have the record.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a weird, like people have sort of fallen out of touch with like the punk scene and like the punk record collecting. But yeah, I'm assuming that we got that record when we were in Western Mass, but I actually don't know when. Like I didn't buy it. Bill, I think it came into the record store and Bill grabbed it.
Yeah, I don't know how many Mark had, but it was quite a lot at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's only like the only other thing I can think of from Vermont from that time is like that Screaming Broccoli LP, which is not very good.
Yeah. Yeah, other stuff is like later. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. Like, who are they playing? Like, what were they playing with? I wonder. You know,
were they just playing in Montreal or just to their friends? Probably.
Yeah.
I think the Western Mass band used to go up there a lot.
Yeah.
So Vermont is not a county renowned for its punk.
No,
it's very super rural.
not
like
really known.
Yeah. Maple syrup, bread and puppet circus, hippies. Yeah, it is like a back to the lander. Hippies tend to go there. But yeah, it's just like the biggest cities are like small towns, basically. You got it at the flea market? It does, you guys, you best New Englanders, what did I just do with it? It has a record store sticker on it, Pure Pop, $4.99. So it's not community test. Pure Pop. Oops. I don't know.
Nice.
Doesn't ring a bell.
I kind of like the fact, even though it devalues it. The record is called "The World Ain't Pretty and Neither Are We." But I kind of like that it has a record store sticker on it, even though it's, you know, not good for the condition or whatever. I like the history of the.
I leave them on if they're old, always.
Me too.
If they're new ones, they're coming off, but if they're old ones,
yeah. I kind of wish I kept every Jerry's Records in Pittsburgh sticker on my. I could be like, yeah, I get that for $3, Jerry's.
Wards from Vermont. Right, Chris, what's your next pick?
All right, another one from the local box. I actually just bought a copy of one of these records for Justin a couple months ago, or maybe like last year, but anyway. Boston, two of my favorite local 45s. I'm just going to do both because it's the same band. So this band, Ground Zero, and they have two singles, and they're sort of like arty post-punk, but they have a very hard edge to them.
Yeah.
And I think this is all they have. There's like 4 songs on each record. One of the songs on the first one, this one, was on Kill by Death number like 8.5 or 9 or something. And that one almost sounds like a proto-hardcore song, considering it's from 79-ish. But there was like a pretty big scene of this kind of music in Boston at the time. Some of them people are still around, interesting to talk to, but this band is definitely my favorite of the bunch. And it has, like I said, it has a very hard edge to it. And it has really, really good production, which I think they were recorded on like 4 tracks in their loft. And they were all, I think they were Mass Art students. So like the one record, the cover is kind of this really elaborate like color photocopy that's like duct taped around like recycled photo paper. And so when you find copies of it, the inside of the jacket tends to turn brown and get really brittle, and then it rubs off on the record, so the record's kind of turn brown. But anyway, the music's just like really good, and I don't think there's any other stuff around here that's like in this category that's as good as these records. So they're just like, I think it's because the production is so strong, but it's not like pro sounding, but it's just like a really strong lo-fi recording, and the songs are like pretty hard sounding for like a arty band. So hence they are my favorite local band of that era.
What's the one super aggressive song? Is it called Nothing? Is that
Nothing? Yeah, but it's pretty much like hardcore speed.
Yeah.
And it has like really, the drumming is like really tight and like aggressive, so it sounds almost like proto hardcore.
Yeah, that's great.
And there's a really like nasty looking comp LP of the 245s on that Rave Up label. It's not as egregious as their normal releases, but it's still pretty ugly. And
I don't know if I've ever
He
seen
distracted by the garbage truck.
yeah,
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Right on time. Right on time.
What does that look like? The comp?
I think it's got like an atom bomb going on.
Ground Zero, we're talking about, right?
Yeah, so they have self-titled record, and then the other one is called Born to Be Bombed.
Very like different aesthetics, like on both of those. Like,
yeah, so the first one, I don't have an original, but a friend made me this kind of cool photocopy. But there's like a really rare sleeve for one of them, and it's this kind of melted cloth looking thing that's inside the other one. And that, I guess that's a little more akin to the other sleeve. But yeah, if you ever see a copy of this, they're not very expensive in terms of like, you know, being this old and sort of collecting for like $30 records. But they're just really good.
yeah, one of them looks like super punk, and the other one looks like more power poppy kind of looking.
Yeah, this one's a little more like kind of arty looking, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks kind of post-punk.
Yeah.
And the other one is just like, it's actually, there's a video of them on YouTube, and I think these are all just little video stills that they made it crazy color Xerox thing. And then a lot of them have this little radiation sticker, like sealing them shut. This one stuck on the jacket for whatever reason.
Nice.
Yeah, so pretty interesting stuff. But,
yeah. Good records.
Beautiful.
Very
All right.
obsessed with obscure local music. And it gets all the notes for me. So.
Just hold that thought. You know, like we've talked about this record before, but like the record that Tom General Speech reissued. Well, there was two records. D.O.N., which is like a local band from this area that like I've asked everybody that I know about. Nobody's ever heard of this band. They were really obscure. They're a local band, like just put out tapes and stuff. Just talking about, you know, old local bands. He dug pretty deep to find that, Tom. Have you heard that of the D.O.N.?
Yeah, I got copies of it when they came out, but I don't think I've listened to them yet.
It's pretty wild. It's like
really weird. Yeah.
It's like bedroom Stalin, kind of, and it's like just like lots of very, very short songs, you know, recorded in the bedroom. And but, you know, there was a kind of a big art punk scene, post-punk scene in Osaka and Kyoto, but nobody I know knows anything about it.
Yeah, that stuff was really big in Boston, like around, you know, the end of the 70s into the like very early 80s. And the loft that this band lived in, I think, was sort of the central zone for those bands.
Right.
And so when you see flyers or whatever for old shows, they're like always at this loft.
Where was it?
Thayer Street.
Oh.
Not the one in Providence.
No.
Down by like...
Is that like by Back Bay Station?
No, remember where those practice spaces used to be at the end of Albany Street?
No. Yes.
South End, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
All right, Justin, what's your?
Well, I just changed the pick because I figured I might as well also do a New England record.
All right.
I believe I actually got this record from Chris. There's a funny story behind it because I had never heard it until, I don't know how long, maybe 10 years ago for the first time. But I had heard rumblings of it And I randomly asked my mom about it because it's of the era. He knows where I'm with this. And she just happened to be like, that was all the people that I hung out with in high school. And so it led me down this road to learn that it was also like the parents of two other dudes that I grew up with in this band. And I think they might have been on one of the original, like, early Acid Archives comps, I think, or maybe just in the book. But it is Pugsley Munyon from Fitchburg. This came out sometime in the late 60s.
Nice.
It's definitely got that, like, heavy blues, blue cheer, psychedelic vibe to it. And yeah, it's pretty ripping. One of these guys, which one was it? There's some connection between this band and Chris, you know the other two bands that, okay, this was a last minute thing, so I didn't remind myself of these details.
Pugsley.
That guy, Saint Stephen Cataldo, who was also in Nervous Eaters. He was in some other band at that same era as the Saint Stephen record that was related. It was one of these guys, Ducky Belleville from this band, and they have like an LP.
I just know that St. Stephen's.
That record's great, but he did other stuff.
On page review.
Maybe.
I'm looking at Discogs.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not this record, but
they don't have an original release, it looks like.
No, but they have recordings, like an album. It's from this same era. So the drummer of this band is the father of, like, Matt, who was in Fit for Abuse and Hatch Your Face and Dive, and now is in Dropkick Murphys. And the other guy, John Schuler's son, Chris, also grew up with us. But I don't know. This record is great. It's totally heavy psychedelic blues. Mid 60s.
Wow.
Or early 70s. Maybe it's 1970. Let's see if it says.
Is Just Like You like a song, or is it? It's not. Is it related to the Paul Revere and the Raiders song?
It's track 4 on side A.
Yeah. So it's called Just Like You. Okay.
Just Like You.
It's called Just Like You. Doesn't
Wow.
really...
So we're sort of talking like blue cheer style, like heavy
blues.
Heavy
like
blues.
Heavy blues. Super fuzzy.
Wow.
It's really good. And with
Thanks.
that, Slumberland blues, sort of
Never
like
got-
summertime blues.
I've never gotten another copy of that record since I sold it to you.
Do you have one for yourself?
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
I think at some point, like a lot of sealed copies turned up, but stores were selling them, and then people were opening them, and they were warped from being sealed for a million years. So I'm always on the lookout, but they have a 45 that's like a dollar bin record. I have that.
Yeah.
Pugsley Munyon.
Pugsley Munyon. What a name.
What a great name. Nice. All right, last round. I've kind of learned not to assume things. I think my last pick is kind of one that everybody knows, but you never know. Tony Pence a couple of weeks ago on his Facebook posted one song from this record, and I hadn't thought about this band since the 80s because they had a bit of a hit in the UK, like in the early 80s, and I remember probably seeing them on Top of the Pops or something back then, and the name was really weird to me back then. The name of the band was weird. I remember thinking they were a weird band when I saw them. But anyway, I played this one song, and the song was called I Want to Go Home. It's the name of the song. I was like, this is amazing. I've got to find this record. And of course, being in where I am, I found the LP pretty quickly. continuing my Italian sub theme, Holly and the Italians.
Oh yeah.
The Right to Be Italian. Virgin Records, 1981. Wow, fucking great record! It's amazing. I kind of looked at her up a little bit. Holly Beth Vincent, she was in the punk scene a little bit, but not in any bands that I'd heard of. And then she moved to England, and that's what the first song is about, right? She was living in England when she was really young. Like, she's talking about like wanting to eat like cheeseburgers and doing American stuff, but like she's stuck in London. So I Want to Go Home is about like being homesick and wanting to like move back and go back to America. But like she was like dating, I know this is like not very important, but she was like dating Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits and stuff, according to Wikipedia, which I don't know, doesn't really matter. It doesn't make any difference to this record. But it took a long time to come out, and it was a flop, by like Virgin Record standards back then. Like I think they started recording it in like early 80. It didn't come out until like late 1981, and they just kind of got dropped, blah, 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 blah. But man, this is just a great. It's like that line between like power pop and like punk, and it has that like. Do I need to describe this record? Does everybody knows this record, right? It's like it's got that 50s thing. The first song, it sounds like the Ramones, right? Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that like 50s or 60s like rock and roll thing going on. A lot of variation between songs. Some are more punky. There's a little bit of Blondie kind of influence kind of going on. But has this been forgotten? The young people know about this record? Look in your dollar bins, because this is a fucking great, great record. It's a great record.
Yeah, actually, I don't have that record. I have the Tell That Girl to Shut Up single or EP or whatever. But yeah, I love that band.
It's great. It's like the lyrics are really like sarcastic and like kind of funny, and she's a great singer. I guess they opened for the Clash, or they toured with the Clash, and like they played at the Hammersmith Odeon with like Blondie and the Selector back in the day, and people were kind of thinking this band was Virgin thought this band was going to be big, but like this record was like a commercial flop by like Virgin standards. It's great, man. It's such a great like summer record too, Yeah. And I guess like she ended up doing a duet with Joey Ramone, right? Like years and years later.
Yeah.
I Got You Babe, like cover. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Check it out. Holly and the Italians. the Right to Be Italian. 1981. That's my last pick.
That just reminded me, total tangent of this. There's just this cover. There's a band. Actually, I should show their record someday on this, but I'm not going to go into the whole story of them. But there's this band called The Cake from the 60s. They were like young women, and they did a lot of like they had to do a lot of covers. Basically, like the label like made when they wrote their own songs, they did these like intricate like 3-part harmonies that they just like none of them could like read music. They just made this stuff up. It was crazy and weird. But there's one of their singers did a duet with Tiny Tim of I Got You Babe, but she sang the Sonny Bono parts and he sang the Cher parts, or like they like switched the roles or whatever.
I like those Cake records. Those are really good.
Not that, I mean, Cher has a pretty deep voice too. So.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to kind of like go into a big, not speech, but like that, but like the Wikipedia about Holly Beth Vincent is very interesting, and I don't want to just read it all out, so people can like check out themselves. But yeah, very interesting. She was a multi-instrumentalist. She played drums in punk bands and stuff when she was young. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool. Is this record forgotten? I don't know. I have no idea. But
I think it's one of those records that, like, no matter how good it is, people see it in like the bargain bin, so they kind of skip it.
It's one exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Same with the 45s.
Right. Don't. If you see this record in the bargain bin, buy it.
I love learning about records like that, though. You know, it's the best,
Yeah.
like dollar bin bangers.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm gonna be playing this a lot this summer. It's a real nice like summer record, you know.
Cool. Hopefully, the kids have learned today.
Kids better wake up.
Italian.
I know, not to go off, but there's like other bands that are like, in the same ballpark that are you know, more well known, I guess, cooler maybe. You know. I don't know. Anyway, Rachel, what's your last pick?
Okay. So this I looked up how to pronounce all the song titles and stuff, like practiced. But then I did like a million things. I don't know if I can remember. I wrote down phonetically all these things. This is a band.
It's Japanese.
Actually, coming back to the Western Mass thing. This is a band that I didn't go to see when they played in Western Mass when I lived there. I don't remember why. I think maybe you had I have always had a radio show on Saturday nights, which really fucks me over for seeing bands. But they played, and I'm like, I hugely regret that I didn't go to see them. They're from Iceland. I was playing this for Bill this afternoon because I was trying to like describe the guitar tone, and I was like, how would a guitar person describe this guitar
Did
tone?
I freeze?
Is it an all
So I was playing it. He was like, I'm like, what is this? He's like, is it some like 80s anarcho band? And I'm like, nope, you're gonna have to wait and find out. But now that I said where they're from, he's probably gonna remember. But it's
Oh, I'm sorry.
no. Something like that.
I literally just put that in my like wants list on Disc Union.
Oh,
It
it's
came up used.
so good.
Is it? Okay.
I'm sure you like. It's not expensive. It just came out last year, and it's on Iron Lung, so they.
It's on Iron Lung, yeah.
But yeah, this is like dark. Like it's definitely got like a dark wavy kind of style to it. Their last record is a little more like anarcho-y. The song that I played for Bill is the like punkest song on there, which is called something for. It's like Fusrutar Mira Vira.
Doesn't the face on it look like her face right now?
Track 3.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
The way you were holding it, the face on the cover looked like your face because we
It was lined up perfectly.
It's very flattering. Yeah. What is it?
I did. It did. Jesus.
But yeah, it's called Drotnikar Thor. I can't even remember. Thor. I
Track
don't know.
5.
Yeah, like the D's are pronounced kind of like a very soft TH. But yeah, it's really, really good. It has like it's feminine, but it's like not in a way that is very often presented in like media. Like it reminds me a little bit of like Malaria. It has these very like dramatic, like powerful vocals that are like they're not like it's hard to explain. Like it almost has like a like it's not like sung like opera, but it has that kind of like flair of like it's dramatic and it's powerful and it's like forceful. It actually reminds me a little bit. I'm doing a sneaky pick of Uneasy from Montreal.
All right. Okay.
Who have a singer who has a similar like super dramatic, like almost sort of like classical sounding style to them, but not in like a opera metal way or whatever. But yeah, this is so good. There's like some songs in here that are very, very punk sounding. There's some that are more kind of like post-punk dark wave. But yeah, I love this. Is like one of my favorite records. I think it came out in 2022. But yeah, it's so good. It's on Iron Lung. And it was like 7 years between their first LP and their second LP. So I hope they tour the US again.
I'm very anxious now because I'm wondering if the copy that I saved on my Disc Union is like still there because they have a copy for sale.
Someone's playing it right now.
I'm not going to check now. I can wait 20 minutes. But like...
yeah, their name means children, I think, or child. Children. I think. And the name of the album is like Queens of Death or something like that. But yeah, the cover kind of like this like strong, stark femininity is kind of in this cover. Like they're putting on their makeup, but they're also like badass, fucking not taking any bullshit ladies. So yeah, really like it.
I'm glad you talked about that record because like now I know that I have to spend more money. All right, Chris, what's your last pick?
All right, last one. A record that came into the store, I don't know, a week or two ago, and I was just listening to it. But it was a record that I've previously owned and liked, and then it was much maligned by some message board friends of ours.
Oh.
And I may have sold it just because, you know, I heard how bad it was.
Peer pressure.
Yeah. But it came into the store the other day and I threw it on and I was talking to an older friend of mine in the store who knows one of the guys in the band who actually lives around here, even though this band is from down south. And so this is the LP.
I had a feeling that's what it was.
Of message board friends, yes.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. I kind of it seems to hit the same spot for me as like the Clash do now, where like they're not bad records, but it just doesn't really do anything for me. But I did want to give it a spin, and you know, it's good music. I like it, but I would probably never listen to this record again. It's just, you know,
the Red Rockers
by the powers that be. So
that band got so much abuse back then. Like, from our friends.
I don't know why.
Not me neither.
Like some of the lyrics are like really corny, but
China is a really good song, I think. Even
I've never actually heard any of the 80s new wave.
That's the first LP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like there's always like 100 yen copies of all the other records, but like that one.
Yeah, the other records are like completely like, you know, like I don't think anybody likes them and they're worthless. And
right. I would like to own that one though, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just like I said, it's not bad, but I just probably would never put it on again.
I couldn't tell you a single song.
My friend was in here who's probably saw them back in the day, like at the time, and was like, "Oh, that's like the best American version of the Clash," and I was like, "Sure."
Red Rockers condition was that one a major back then?
No.
The
other stuff is major.
Okay.
But, yeah, one of the guys in the band runs like a really big vintage mall marketplace in Providence. I don't think I've ever met him, but friends of a friend kind of person. So I hope he's not listening to this one.
So hang on, I've got to get this correct. So they didn't name themselves after Sammy Hagar, I'm assuming.
Probably
I doubt. I wouldn't imagine.
No, right? Because Sammy Hagar is the Red Rocker, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
Maybe he stole the name from the Red Rocker. Maybe.
I'm now trying to figure out the chronology of Sammy Hagar.
Yeah, me too. I was like, it's like, did they name themselves after him or like?
What was he doing before that?
But was Sammy Hagar called the Red Rocker when he was like singing in Montrose?
I don't know.
Let's not spend too much airtime on.
Let's not take it.
Yeah, I like
it says here on Wikipedia.
That's just the first thing you think of when you see like Red Rocker is either Red Rockers or
Sammy Hagar.
Sammy Hagar. That's it.
That's
we can say his name. RJ was he really didn't like the Red Rockers.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'll just pick like a random band and just annihilate them.
His hatred was like palpable. It's like
yeah, it was pretty amazing.
I honestly thought you were going to pull out like a Chillmark record.
That was the band that everybody. I don't think anybody knew what they sounded like, but they liked them for some reason.
Oh wait, I forgot to describe the guitar tone of the band. After all that, it's metallic. That's what I said. It's metallic guitar tone. Thank you. Okay. back to Red Rockers.
Yeah, I'm done with Red Rockers, so you guys on to the next one.
All right, Justin.
All right.
Last pick of the day.
Play us out.
Play us out.
I was looking for a copy of this record for I don't know how long. I mean, it was one of those things I didn't really want to buy on the internet, so I just kind of waited it out. And it ended up taking however long the internet has existed until like a month ago. I always had it on tape. I had several copies on cassette. I had I don't know how many T-shirts, but I finally got it on vinyl, and it's the best pop band with 2 bass players. Ned's Atomic Dustbin.
Ned's Atomic Dustbin.
Godfather.
Talking of crimping and
Yes.
dreadlocks and man, what's the name of the genre that Fraggle? That's Fraggle. Fraggle Rock.
Fraggle Rock. This record's amazing, honestly. I mean, I've probably been listening to it for most of my life at this point, though, so I'm a little biased. That's what I got.
That's amazing. Like, okay, that this is like so.
Did you
like,
see them? Do you ever see them?
Yeah, I think like once or twice. Like in the 90s, there was this crossover a little bit between like Snuff and Mega City 4 and Leatherface.
That makes
and
sense.
Senseless Things. And sometimes they would play with like Ned's Atomic Dustbin and the Wonder Stuff and like bands like that. These very like 90s like pop bands that were kind of like indie bands that were kind of getting big, and there was a definite sort of like crossover there between like the pop punk bands and like bands like Ned's Atomic Dustbin. And I think, you know what, I think like the Doughboys, you know,
Yeah.
would play with Ned's Atomic Dustbin when they came to England.
They had the same haircuts too, right? Pretty much.
It's like the big shorts and everything. It's like so 90s. There's no record like more 90s like, or band more 90s than like the Ned's Atomic Dustbin.
It's pretty. The only like I never listened to that record. I remember like reading about it in Rolling Stone or whatever, but I never actually listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when I was in summer camp, someone told me that they wanted to sound like Primus, but they couldn't play bass like Les Claypool, so they had to have 2 bass players. This was according to like a 12-year-old at my socialist arts camp in Connecticut. And also, when I was on tour with the Piss just now in the UK, Rob from Vitriolic Response, who was driving us, said he went to see Ned's Atomic Dustbin, was like on acid or something, and he fell into a trash can and was stuck in it for the entire show. So in a dustbin.
In a Atomic Dustbin.
Well,
that's some Fraggle shit right there. There's some fraggly shit.
Crusty too. He's not like.
I remember that time so well. Like lots of people with like Dr. Martin boots with the laces undone
and shorts,
dreadlocks, maybe some tie dye. It was kind of like the UK's grunge, like kind of like there were so many bands that were like Pop Bully itself, even like Jesus Jones a little bit were kind of like that. You know, it's like rock indie mixed with like a little bit of like modern like and like, you know, dance beats. Then there's like techno in there.
Like Happy Mondays, right?
Happy Mondays. Yeah, it's so 90s. It's Tony Blair's Britain. It's Cool Britannia. You know,
right. 1990. This one was
1990. Yeah.
Tony, when you have the Bill Clinton of England.
Yeah,
that's a great pick. I haven't listened to that like probably since it came out. I'd like to. I will actually this weekend.
There was this when I lived in Boston. One of the places I lived was on Brighton Ave. And we lived right across from the thrift store called Amvets. And you could pretty much go in there at any point, any day, and always leave with a Ned's Atomic Dustbin t-shirt. I had so many of them at one point, and now I have one, and I hate it. It's a crappy
Is it
one.
tie-dye?
I want a better one.
Is it tie-dye?
No. It's red with red print.
Hypercolor?
Like really brightly colored with like huge, everything's big on it.
It is a big print. It's red, the same as Rachel's shirt, and the print is also red.
That's a great pick. Takes me back to my youth. But it is interesting, like that kind of crossover between like the UK pop punk scene and then like bands like that who are more like indie. There was
It makes sense. They all had terrible drum sounds.
yes, that too. Beautiful.
Yep.
All right. Let me that was a great show. Let me announce next week's show. Next Friday. What's the date next? Oh, July 12th. Same time, same place. Daniel Lupton, Sorry State Records, Jeff Young, Scarecrow, Public Acid, and Dave Brown, the Canadian,
Nice.
formerly of Career Suicide, now of Suicide Records and Shaggy Dog Discs. Next Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Mountain, a new time zone that I learned about a couple of weeks ago, and 7 p.m. Pacific. Check out your local. I think it's like 3 o'clock in the morning in England, so nobody watches in England, of course. All right. It's been a great time, as always. We're probably going to chat a little bit after the cameras stop rolling.
It's juicy stuff.
Then we'll really get started. I was hoping to see Bill make an appearance.
Oh yeah, sorry. I mean, if you see us, you can come running over. And talk more about Boston / New Hampshire. You know who is from? I'm sorry.
Yep.
You know who is from Boston / New Hampshire? You guys know. Who's from
GGL.
Boston? No. Well, yeah, but
Except him.
Aerosmith.
Who?
Aerosmith.
Aerosmith.
You heard of them? Have you ever heard of them?
Couple of tracks.
Yeah.
Lots of tracks.
No,
They're from New
none.
Hampshire.
Zero. Were they from New Hampshire?
Yeah, originally from New Hampshire, not
No,
from
no, no.
originally.
There you go. This is the content that we tune in for. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy your independence.